We're moving into July right around the corner here. And of course, the 4th this Saturday. We have a packed show for you. We do have breaking news. But let me start with some of the stuff we're going to be having. We have a full show for you, so buckle up for your news talk. And thanks for choosing us. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google. Good morning, New Hampshire. Good morning, Maine. Good morning, New England. Good morning now beyond and worldwide at the Pulse of an H. Our poll question up on X has to do with our lead breaking story, and that is with the situation, and it's not getting any better. In fact, I have an update for you. A Massachusetts media source, a buddy of mine who's been covering the story in Haverhill, says it's worse than they're letting. Well, Haverhill's being upfront, but I think the Massachusetts state and New Hampshire state officials are not aware of how serious this is, believe it or not. But our poll question up on X with the wastewater, still as of this morning, millions of gallons are pouring each day into the Merrimack River. That is getting out into the ocean, and it's closing about 8 beaches on the North Shore of Mass up to Salisbury, which, if you keep going up, it's Seabrook and Hampton Beach. Our poll question up on X at the Pulse of an H: do you think New Hampshire will close any do you think the state of New Hampshire will close any beaches because of the bacteria contamination over the next few days? And we are expected by Thursday to be at least 100, if not the real field temperature, 102 degrees by Thursday in this heat wave. Now, we do have an update from the state of New Hampshire as we go to Paul Steinhauser, I believe, in a moment, who's covering the primaries. The governor's office telling us that New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services plans to conduct ongoing water quality testing at the New Hampshire beaches throughout the holiday weekend until repairs are completed in Haverhill. I'll tell you about those repairs and what they're trying to do and why it's unlikely they're going to be able to get this fixed by tomorrow with a bypass. And so, no offense to the governor's office or the New Hampshire DES, I would not be as concerned about the weekend as I would about the next day or two, with temperatures soaring that high and this going on. But we'll come back to that. Primaries in certain states, the socialist movement continuing. Paul Steinhauser with Fox News National and Digital joining us live. Good morning, New Hampshire, the Pulse of an H. Steiny, it's the day of the socialists for the Democrats. Good morning.
Jack, we talked so much last week about what happened in New York City in those congressional races, those 3 far-left candidates, 2 of them socialists, all backed by Zoran Mandami, the Democratic Socialist mayor of New York City, beating the establishment candidates, right? That got a lot of attention. So fast forward a week, here we go again, this time in Colorado, Jack. Yeah, the Rocky Mountain State, which has been reliably blue over the last 2 decades. We're looking today at a congressional race in Denver. This is a really blue district, Jack. You've got Diana DeJette. She's a Democratic congresswoman. She's been there in office for 30 years, Jack. She's facing off against a much younger Democratic socialist. This is going to be a real doozy, and if the Democratic socialist defeats her, it's going to be a major, major storyline. So keep your eyes on Colorado tonight, those results. If the socialist wins, this is very, very big because it's not just New York City anymore. And we've got other big primaries we're going to be looking at later this summer where the socialists also are on the rise. Hey, Jack, also one other thing, because I know you got so many listeners in Maine. New poll out yesterday from Siena College and the New York Times showing Graham Plattner with just a slight 2-point edge over Susan Collins, basically a dead heat in that crucial, crucial Senate race.
Yeah, the bad news for Plattner because he doesn't want to plateau this early and get even. Paul, I'm just telling you, this energy, I don't know what it means in New Hampshire, but this energy in the far left side of the Democrat Party, it's not just, the mayor of New York City is pivotal, but it's not just what happened in New York last week. The real energy is, it's like, did you see what they were chanting at Minority House Speaker Hakeem Jeffries, who's, talk about a leading Democrat. He's about as Democrat as you come. They were chanting his own party. You're next. We're coming for you. The Socialists and the Democratic Party. They chanted at him on election night the other night, or whatever it was the other night. He had an event to the minority leader in the House. We're coming for you next. His own party.
And Jack, this gives obviously a lot of ammunition to Republicans. Listen, let's be honest. It's a tough cycle for Republicans. They're the party in power, so they traditionally face headwinds. The inflation has not been a friend of them at all. But this is giving Republicans a lot of ammunition to paint all Democrats as way too far to the left, as too radical. Well, it's all going to play out in the midterms, Jack.
If you're a kind of what I'd call a New Hampshire well, more, I don't know, current moderate. I don't know if I wouldn't even call it moderate, but more of a regular Democrat. This far left push has to make everyone nervous. All right. Thank you, Paul.
Have a great day.
All right. Bunch of other stuff breaking this morning. Supreme Court, any moment now, going to release a ruling on birthright citizenship, transgender issues in sports, and more. In my prediction, with Justice Roberts, I guess, right in the majority opinion on birthright citizenship, I don't think the president's going to be too happy. This all had to do with his executive order. The parents who are not, American citizens or become legal citizens here. In other words, illegal immigrants, if they have a child here, is it automatically a U.S. baby, a citizen? In terms of an American. I think the Supreme Court is going to not go. I think they're going to basically keep the birthright citizenship. That's my prediction. But John Decker, our own White House correspondent, live in just a little bit here. So we are packed. We are packed today. We're also going to continue to tell you some great New Hampshire Independence Day facts and history. Sue Polidor in the next hour. Yesterday, she went through. This is not a small story, folks. Not a small story. Now, New Hampshire became the first colony to break away from the British rule and write and pass or have their own constitution ratified 6 months before the Declaration of Independence. So today, Sue's going to continue telling you things you should know as we go into America's 250 Saturday, July 4th. And by the way, I still think the sign should be in New Hampshire, happy birthday, or just, how about this one? Happy 250. Happy 250, America. Happy 250, 250, America. Live free or die. Just think about those words. I want to come back to this story because I, maybe just from experience and watching stories like this and looking at the tea leaves, in all due respect, and I mean that, we have very good state agencies and officials, and Hampton Beach does a really good job. I'm talking about managing things, and they always get, they don't invite everyone there, but they get a ton of guests. I'm telling you some facts here. When it gets to be 98 degrees tomorrow and Thursday, 100 degrees, beaches open or closed in Hampton Beach. If all those North Shore beaches are literally not just closed for swimming, but closed, where do you think the people from Haverhill, Lawrence, and Lowell are going to come? Where do you think? It's just a good question, class. Elementary question this morning. Where do you think 50 or 100,000 people are going to come if it's 100 degrees in Haverhill, Lawrence, and Lowell? They're coming to Hampton Beach. They're coming to Rye, Genesee. They're coming to New Hampshire beaches, regardless of what New Hampshire does. I'm just telling you that's an inevitable one. But this situation in Haverhill, Mass. is, I talked to a buddy who's been covering this. I don't know if you know what they're trying to do. They're trying to, the water, the pump stations and the pipes that burst Friday. This has been happening, folks. Today's Tuesday. With the heavy rains Friday, one of the pipes burst. These are old pipes. My buddy down there in the media was telling me they go back to like 1974 in Haverhill. These are pipes that flow to the waste treatment center in Haverhill, like millions of gallons of wastewater, sewage. These pipes were transporting, through their pump stations on the river there, the Merrimack, into the wastewater treatment. When they burst, this has been happening since Friday. There were reports coming into yesterday, that only 600,000 gallons of wastewater, which is a lot, had flowed into the Merrimack River, which feeds the ocean high and low tide, in terms of the beaches. It's 8 to 10 million gallons a day, Haverhill officials, the public works director, 8 million gallons a day since Friday. And as of this morning, about an hour and a half ago, I verified it's still pouring out. They're trying to do a rather amazing bypass surgery, if you will, with about, I don't know how many miles of pipe. And it's not an easy undertaking. They're working 24/7 in Haverhill. If this continues, I got news for you. If this continues, when tide's going out, obviously with high tide coming in, the water's not moving as fast. But when that tide goes out, if you've been on the Merrimack, off the Merrimack River at Newburyport, right in the mouth there, it is strong. That water is pouring out. And depending on currents and winds, not to get into a mariner's forecast, that water, the wastewater, can go south or north or straight out. Well, just north of where it comes out of Newburyport and Salisbury is Seabrook, and just north of that is Hampton Beach. So the state is increasing the testing. We heard from the governor's office this morning. But if this gets worse, this heat wave complicates this seriously because you're going to have a crowd control issue. You could have a health issue if people ignore the warnings. And then I don't know what Hampton Beach and the State Department of Environmental Services, or the governor, I guess, who's who runs the state. She's the chief executive, Governor Ayotte. If they make a decision by tomorrow night, if they get some positive bacteria readings, and they have to decide, is it safe for kids and people to be swimming in this? They've already closed all those North Shore beaches en masse because of the readings. What do you think is going to happen here if this flow doesn't get stopped? And the chances, if you read his last name is Ward, the public works director in Haverhill, the chances of this bypass they're trying to do, these pipes to divert this flowing wastewater that's going into the Merrimack as of this morning to divert it to the wastewater facility with temporary pipes is not a slam dunk. So this is a very tenuous situation. With the heat wave, it makes it worse. So keep posted, and we'll let you know. But anything breaking here. We'll take a quick break. We'll talk about the far left side of the Democrat Party and socialist. They are, well, as I said in a video from my show the other day, I posted like Huey Lewis in the News, the song "Hip to Be Square." If you're a left side progressive party Democrat, it's hip to be a socialist. More primaries today. What does it mean for New Hampshire? Mike Dennehy on deck next.
It's more than baseball. It's Red Glen College Studios. Now back to Jack Heath on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
All right. As they say, it's been a bit. It's been a minute since we've had Mike Dennehy, one of the great ones, Republican analyst, and he really truly is a super analyst. He's been busy with his horses and, I don't know, fly fishing while he's on a horse. I was watching a little bit of Jeremiah Johnson last night, the movie with the great late Rob Redford when he was, up in the Rockies, wherever that was filmed, and reminded me of you out there with the horses, except you weren't being attacked by Native Americans. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Jack? Good to hear your voice.
All right. Hey, it's good to be heard. Good to be heard. How big of you've seen a lot, presidential politics, managing campaigns, Republican side, the reality of Donald Trump taking over the Republican Party. You've seen it all. The Democrats, Bill Clinton sort of running to the middle when he ran. How big of a deal is this? The cool socialists on the far left side wanting to take out any Democrat in their way. What's going on here, Michael?
Yeah, well, I think you and I have talked about this a lot, Jack. You've talked about it certainly on your shows in the past. The Democrats have a serious identity problem, and it's growing more and more public. The socialist left, Bernie Sanders AOC, is getting a stronger hold on the party, and there are folks that in their party that want to try and stop it. And I think it will be a larger feud as we get further into the election season. James Carville, who of course became famous with President Bill Clinton, has been firing up parts of the Democrat Party also in favor of moving more to the center. And it's tough. It's tough for the Democrats to do that because they have gone so far left. And the most popular members of their party are socialist Democrats. So you heard yesterday AOC, who is really one of the largest, if not the largest mouthpiece for the Democrats, becoming very critical of these Democrats who claim they are not in favor of the socialist Democrat wing. But I think that, semantics is a big part of this too, and political spin, because you can say you're not, but it doesn't change your voting and your support for issues like Medicare for all. So, I think the biggest issue is the political feud in the Democratic Party is real, and it's going to be a problem moving forward for them. And then the question is whether the voting public will buy the fact that some of these Democrats are not socialist Democrats when they want liberal issues like Medicare for all, which has proved to be a failure everywhere else in the world.
So I don't know about Maine with the Plattner-Collins race. That's probably bad news for Plattner. He won the primary big because the people who voted were out there, if you know what I mean, literally out there. They want to end fascism, but they want to vote for a guy who had a Nazi tattoo on his chest. But you explain that one to me, Michael. You care about women's rights, and you look at what he's said in the past, and I guess they talk about forgiveness. Probably not good for him that these polls are even tightening. But in New Hampshire, I mean, you and I know there's a small percentage of the Democrat Party that is, I would call, like they want to break the furniture. They want to overturn liberal Democrats who've been in Congress. They want Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader. They want to get rid of anything who's not it's all about socialism in their mind. They want to overturn. They don't like our system. They want, but it's a small percentage. But if that's the most fierce activism in the party, it's got to affect everything in Democrat politics, including here in New Hampshire.
Yeah, Jack, I'm not so sure that it is a big minority in New Hampshire. Given, if you just look at some of those candidates running for the first congressional district on the Democrat side, one on the surface, one would think that Stephanie Shaheen would be this overwhelming front runner with 60 to 70% of the vote. But if she wins, which I still think she's the front runner, she's running against some extreme left Democrats who are getting 10 to 15, could get 10 to 15 to even 20% of the vote. So I think that is, and that's what I meant. I think it's a growing problem for the Democrats because the extreme left has such momentum,
Right.
And such excitement for whatever reason.
And you know how social media is today. This just feeds on itself for them. I mean, they're going to be smelling the blood in the water. Hey, before we go to the bottom there, Mike Dennehy, Republicans, U.S. Senate, Scott Brown, John E. Sununu. Sununu has the Trump endorsement. I am being told there's a poll coming out tomorrow, St. Anselm College Institute of Politics, that will show that Sununu has like a 3-1 lead over Scott Brown.
Yep.
And if he's a nominee, it might be closer than people think against Pappas. But then the question becomes, what about the state house? What about the governor's race? Where are things at in New Hampshire? Are people independent voters will decide things in the midterms? Are they gonna be all over the map, or are they gonna be sending an anti-Trump vote and vote more blue that could affect even the state house? What do you think?
Well, I'll start by saying John E. Sununu's running a fantastic race. Couldn't be running a stronger race than he is right now. And I think he will blow Scott Brown away. I think that'll be helpful for Republicans. But more to your point, Jack, I think New Hampshire is extremely fortunate this year to have a very strong Kelly Ayotte for governor at the top of this ticket, because I believe firmly that she will stabilize the ticket for Republicans. And I think she'll help all the way down the ticket to keep the House Republican and keep the Senate Republican. And she'll even pull votes in for John E. Sununu. So I'm still optimistic in a potentially challenging year for Republicans.
Right.
In large part because Kelly Ayotte is strong and Cindy Warmington is so anemically weak.
Well, the other way to look at this too is the challenging news for Republicans in New Hampshire, or states like New Hampshire, where Donald Trump's approval might be, lower or below what you'd want, is look at the alternative. Tell me who the leading Democrats are nationally now. Is it still Elizabeth Warren and 84-year-old Bernie Sanders and AOC, or is it the mayor in New York City and the Graham Plattners of the world? So the one thing that you can talk about the Trump factor all day long and fatigue, but who are the Democrat leaders? Is Graham Plattner the future of Democrats in the state of Maine? I'm just asking questions.
Yeah, I think he is.
Yeah.
Yes, I do, and. That's what the Democrats are struggling with so badly right now.
Oh, they're foaming at the bit. I saw Maine Wire did a little thing in Belfast, Maine, of these people who were out on the corner, with their signs about Hitler and fascism and, all this stuff. And Graham Plattner, and the reporter just goes up to this woman and he's not even confrontational. He says, look, I'm just here peacefully doing my job. You talk about fascism and Hitler, and yet you're holding a Graham Plattner sign. Can you explain that? She just started. Yeah. It was like you were talking alien language to her, and she just started quoting different things and yelling at him and calling him a fascist. And he says, "Why are you calling me a fascist? I just asked you why you're holding this sign. You're voting for a guy with a Hitler tattoo on his chest. I'm just trying to understand what you're thinking." Oh, it was hilarious. Yeah. It's hilarious
and
video.
They won't answer the question, of course, because they don't know how to answer it.
Well, you know what it is. It's like during the college campus stuff when they were taking over quads and college campuses a couple of years ago in the Ivy League, the kiddies like in New York, and they were holding up Hamas and anti-Israel, death to the U.S., death to Israel signs in Gaza over the Palestinian crisis. And reporter goes up and asks these young, like sophomore students, a couple of young female students, you're here protesting and camping out. Do you know anything about Hamas or Gaza? They're like, no, but it's really cool. They're bringing in pizza and water. We're taking over the campus here. It's really cool. They had no idea what they were protesting. All right. See you, Michael. Be well. Enjoy the heat wave.
Thanks, Jack.
All right. We get back. Our own White House correspondent, John Decker. Supreme Court, some big decisions coming up. could be happening right now on birthright citizenship. And then we're going to get an update from a district attorney, someone in the Merrimack County side of things, on bail reform and more. Hey, Alexa, Google, play the Pulse of an H. Back in a moment.
News, info. Now,
So it's not me. I had
back
it right. Okay.
to Jack
Right.
on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
Busy update with our own White House correspondent, John Decker, before he goes off to Wimbledon to call the lines. John Decker, White House correspondent. Birthright citizenship. I don't think the White House is going to be too happy with this one if Justice Roberts is writing the decision, but what do I know? Good morning, John.
Well, you know a lot, Jack. You know, I sat in on that case, and so did a guy named Donald J. Trump. He actually went down to the Supreme Court and sat in on oral arguments, heard the arguments being put forward by his Solicitor General. And I think the president realizes things did not go that well that day, and I don't think they'll go well today. I think that the Supreme Court will rule against him, find his executive order concerning birthright citizenship to be unconstitutional. And the real question for me is, what's the vote breakdown? And what are the rationales being offered up by both the majority and the dissenters in that case? It's going to be, I think, a very interesting day for the president, as was yesterday, a number of cases impacting not only the president, but also the upcoming midterm elections, with that case decided involving Mississippi's election law, which allows a mail-in ballot. Which is mailed in before Election Day, but arriving after Election Day. According to the Supreme Court, that is a valid ballot in the state of Mississippi. And 13 other states that have similar election laws.
I don't think Justice Barrett's going to be invited over to the new White House ballroom for dinner soon.
No, that's right. She was named to the bench by President Donald Trump in the waning months of his presidency in his first term. She wrote the majority opinion in that case. It was a 5-4 decision. Chief Justice John Roberts also joining with Amy Coney Barrett in deciding that case. The president got a big victory, however, yesterday, Jack, an expansion of presidential power, which allows the president, with the exception of the Fed, to remove any individual serving on a federal independent regulatory agency like the FTC, for instance, the Federal Trade Commission. So that expands presidential power not only for President Trump, Jack, but for all future presidents.
And real quickly, there's a transgender questions in sports today or not on the Supreme Court decisions?
Yeah, I think that is going to be given as far as an opinion offered up by the Supreme Court today. I think here the supermajority, the conservative supermajority that exists at the Supreme Court, will likely deliver a win for the president and their position on that particular case.
And then finally, what's the calculus of the president saying the housing bill's a yawn and not signing it? I pushing the SAVE Act. I don't understand the politics in this one, quite frankly.
I don't understand it either. That had strong bipartisanship. Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, called it the most significant housing affordability legislation to ever come out of Congress. And, it's something that, passed the Senate with 80 votes, Jack. You never see that.
No, just sign it.
The president wants to see the Save America. Was that?
Just sign it. I mean, we have an affordable housing crisis. What's the downside? Just sign it. Yeah.
I'm with you. Just sign it. That's what the House Speaker Mike Johnson says as well, Jack.
Good luck. Good luck telling President Trump what to do. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
All right. Sarah Rogers has been a prosecutor, a county attorney prosecutor in New Hampshire for a number of years, including Merrimack County. And just in full disclosure, she is running for DA of Merrimack County, but she's been a great informer on the show on bail reform because the Governor Kelly Ayotte's been all over this. I think signed something yesterday, but she's going to update us because I didn't realize this. If you're a police officer out there, law enforcement, and you stop or, speak with someone and you want to just know, is this person wanted? Are they out on bail? Have they killed someone allegedly or convicted and they're out on bail? Police officers had no idea. Finding that information. That's about to change. So thanks for coming back in and updating us. How are you?
Thanks. Good to see you, Jack.
You can pull that mic up.
Oh, yeah. Good to see you.
Take it away with your legal eagle update.
Okay. Yeah. So when we last left off, I told you our fabulous new bail law that Governor Ayotte signed into law does three things, right? You can hold dangerous people, hold people who don't show up to court, and hold people who commit new crimes when they're already out on bail. But that last one was a big sticking point for law enforcement because, like you said, law enforcement, they pulled someone over. They could see if they had been convicted of crimes. They could see if there were warrants out, but they couldn't see bail conditions. So they see that there's a pending criminal charge. They don't know what those conditions are. Maybe the conditions are stay away from Jack Heath. And the person standing right next to Jack Heath, they couldn't see that.
J-Dog has said that a few times. He's tried to get that, but it hasn't gone anywhere. So this is kind of good news for law enforcement and public safety that you could have someone driving around or walking around out there that has a pretty lengthy history, and now you have visibility versus, invisible. Yeah,
it's something that law enforcement has been asking for a while. The holdup was that it would be too cumbersome for the court system, the people who work there to be able to enter this data, but they got it together. They made a really big push. They got this done within 1 year because Governor Ayotte has made public safety her priority through her term as governor. So law enforcement is really, really happy they got this done. And yeah, now when they're sitting in their cruiser, they can pull this right up electronically. They can see what those bail conditions are. And then they can communicate with the prosecutors to start filing motions to get people held who are violating their bail conditions.
So Sarah Rogers, let me ask you this. You can make these improvements, pass these things like the governor announced yesterday, and you're updating us and recently on bail reform. But we've seen in Berlin, New Hampshire, Manchester, New Hampshire, cases where a judge still holds those keys, if you know what I mean.
Right.
And if the police do their job and they bring in someone who's hurt a couple of people or a person violently, and the judge feels like it, they can release that person on personal recognizance pending an arraignment or a court date, right? And in Berlin, we saw that happen where this estranged husband you know, and all the signs that he was going to kill his ex-wife. I mean, he had beat her, he had kidnapped her, he assaulted her, and he ended up killing her. And he should never have been out freely because he wasn't safe to society. And he was, because the magistrate felt it was okay.
You're absolutely right, Jack. And both the Supreme Court and the DOJ did a report on that case. And both of them recommended in that case that enhanced information sharing, that both the DOJ and the court. And this is, I wouldn't say reaction to that, but it definitely drove.
But not to push a devil's advocate, because we had Councilor Stevens and Joe Kenny on that, all over that, and you're aware of it. In that case, was her last name Fuentes?
Yes.
She was this young, vivacious, popular. People loved her in town. She owned a restaurant, and she just was with a bad apple. I mean, the guy was not. She was at risk.
Yes, and there were.
And you didn't need sharing as if you're a judge and you got the police there, or some people saying, "Wait a minute, this guy's kidnapped her. He's sexually assaulted her. He's held her. He's beat her. He's threatened her. What more do you need to know of as a judge that this person shouldn't be out there?"
Well,
or a magistrate.
I'm glad you asked, Jack, because on April 28th, 2025, Marisol Fuentes, she alerted the court that this guy, Gleason, he had stolen her personal documents. That was a violation of his bail conditions. Nobody filed a bail revocation motion. On May 22nd, 2025, he also violated the terms of his bail by removing cars from her property. No one filed a bail motion. And then on July 1st, 2025, a minor filed sexual assault allegations with police against him. And it was unclear, looking at the report, whether those allegations took place while he was on bail. But all three of those incidents, the prosecutor should have filed a motion to revoke bail.
I'd get yelled at by the judge or magistrate. If I was in the courtroom, I'd put my hand up and say, "Your Honor, can I just ask you a quick question?" I'd get the look, If Miss Fuentes was your daughter, would you want this guy out free on bail? Would you want him out on his own personal recognizance? If this was your daughter and he had stolen her information, stolen the stuff from her property, kidnapped her, assaulted her, beat her, would you want him out, Your Honor? I'm just curious. Would you?
Yeah.
What would they say?
Yeah. I can't answer
that's
that.
Irrelevant.
I'm not a judge.
That's a hypothetical.
Yeah,
that's speculative.
So I can tell you the Supreme Court in their report said that there was sufficient evidence to hold him on and that he should have been held.
You think?
And that this case was in the forefront of the mind of the people who made sure that this bail notification system got out there. The anniversary of her death is July 6th, and they wanted to get this done before the 1-year anniversary of her death, and they made it happen.
Right. I mean, I don't want to get personal, but I have a brother-in-law that's got a parent in Maine, and she had one of these stalking cases, and the guy had a huge history, and courts, they weren't putting him away, and he kept breaking his own terms. I mean, at some point, if you're that victim, it's a pretty scary way to have to live. If you got someone out there that's ignoring what they're being told, and they continue to harass and threaten you, and no one puts them away, it's pretty scary. I mean, at some point, I would tell a victim, you got to take the law in your own hands if you're in your house.
It's terrifying, Jack. And I had a case right here in Concord when I was a prosecutor of a man who became obsessed with a waitress. And over the course of 2 years, he stalked her at her home,
ruined her life,
at her job, online, over and over and over again. And the courts refused to hold him until I had a bail hearing that was 2 hours long, when I presented all this information, and the judge finally held this man. And this woman was finally able to sleep at night.
Again, if you were her brother, friend, father, or sister or mother, and you did something to that person to basically, if they came within her immediate area or home, and you maybe just physically adjusted his ways, they would sentence you right away. They would convict you right away for probably assault or something.
Well, hopefully with these new stronger bail law, that kind of thing won't have to happen. Another great thing about this bail notification system is that bail commissioners have access to it as well.
Yeah.
So when they're making those bail decisions, they'll be able to go in and see what people's bail conditions are as well. So hopefully we will see better outcomes from this, and I think we will.
All right, Sarah Rogers. So again, if people want to learn more, and this is, I imagine law enforcement is welcoming this. If you're a local police officer, sheriff's deputy, state police, state trooper, and you at least have visibility on the person's bail conditions, right?
Right. Yeah.
Versus not even knowing. You could pull someone over and have no idea that they were out on bail in another state for allegedly killing 2 people.
Well, this is for bail conditions within our state.
Okay, within New Hampshire, you
But yeah, they didn't know before. They do now.
Yeah.
They're all very excited about it. There was a big press conference yesterday with many different police departments were there represented. Really happy about this. State police worked hard on this. And yes, everybody's very happy and hopeful that this is going to prevent anything like what happened up in Berlin from happening.
Well,
again.
thank you for being a watchdog and thinking of the victims and really keeping us updated. Sarah Rogers, thank you so much for popping by. Is it getting warm out there?
It's starting to get a little toasty, Jack.
Well, wait till Thursday.
Yeah.
You ain't seen nothing yet. All right. Hey, thank you. We're going to take a quick break. You can stick around, but we need to sneak in a break. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the pulse of an H. Jack Heath, J-Dog on the boards. We got a lot coming up. Keep it right here.
107.7 is the
Beaches
pulse
are now
of New
closed
Hampshire.
because of the
Good morning, New
mass
Hampshire,
shooting.
live from the New England College Studios, home to a new media center where the next generation of journalists are taught to do it right. Now back to Jack Heath on the pulse of New Hampshire.
All right, welcome back. Getting an update out of Haverhill, Mass, on this situation to see what the latest is. But just to tell you, there are now 12. That's a dozen, 12 North Shore beaches that are closed because of the threat of bacteria, because of the untreated wastewater that's been pouring in by the millions into the Merrimack River out of Haverhill with that sewer main, the pipes that broke. In addition to the beaches, Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries has banned shellfishing in Gloucester, as far away as Gloucester. All the beaches in and around Ipswich, Newburyport, Salisbury. I mean, I could list the 12, but, you know, Crane Beach, Sandy Point, Plum Island, Steep Hill, Plum Island itself, Salisbury Beach, all closed, shell fishing closed, all because of this. And of course, warnings along the Merrimack River, but the water is flowing into the ocean out of the Merrimack River, places like Newburyport. And the question is, with currents and tides, if it comes north into Seabrook, Hampton Beach. So we did learn this morning that the governor's office at the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services is stepping up the testing. Like today and tomorrow, I would be particularly concerned to see any testing. I'd do it today at noon or by this morning, like right now, and see if any of this stuff is starting to impact Seabrook and Hampton Beach, because it's not just a little, it's millions of gallons. I mean, the first reports were underestimated, like 8 to 10 million gallons of raw, untreated wastewater flowing into the river, into the ocean. And the ocean is a big place. However, we're getting a heat wave. Day 1 today, day 2 tomorrow, day 3 Thursday, into the low 100s. The real feel, places like Nashua, the real feel is supposed to be 103 to 105 on Thursday. J-Dog, right here in Concord, the Central Corridor, over 100, the real feel. So this is like a potentially shaping up to be a mess. If you have 12 beaches closed in the North Shore, where do you think, folks? Where do you think people from Haverhill, Lawrence, and Lowell are going to go to cool off tomorrow and Thursday if their beaches, 12 of them are closed there? Where do you think, folks? Where do you think they're coming to New Hampshire? Good luck. I would not want to be a Hampton Beach lifeguard or police officer on Wednesday and Thursday, because they're going to get flooded with humanity, people, regardless of what we say about our beaches. If those beaches are open, even if they're saying we don't advise people to go in the water or kind of go under, just go in the water, period. Good luck trying to get the people to listen. I think it's going to be a potential let's just say traffic jam tomorrow and Thursday, because there's a funny thing when it gets to be 100 degrees and that hot inland. Guess what? People want to go and cool off, and they're going to go through hell or high water, no pun intended, to cool off, to get their feet in water that's in the 60s, to cool off from the air that's 100. So I don't know how this goes or where it goes, but I got to tell you, it's looking like a mess. Now, I didn't update you out of Haverhill. There's a good local media, WHAV in Haverhill, and some others there. The state and I guess contractors and the city of Haverhill are working around the clock right now, today being Tuesday morning, going into the 10 o'clock hour. But as of this morning at 9 a.m., I verified that millions of gallons of the wastewater is still flowing into the Merrimack. They're trying to, by tomorrow night, do this piping bypass to divert most of this. And if all goes well, by tomorrow night, not today or tomorrow during the day, by tomorrow night, they hope that they've stopped the worst. But I'm just reading into, I'm not an engineer, by the way. My mind is not wired that way. The water, they're trying to do this while the stuff's falling. This is a pretty delicate public works bypass surgery, if you will. I mean, those pipes have to hold, and they have a lot of pipes they're bringing in to try and divert the water that's falling where the pipes burst. Friday night this started with the heavy rains in Haverhill. So I don't know how much piping, but it's not a little, and it's got to all hold, and they pull it off. Good for them. I mean, I'm not questioning the fact that they're working around the clock, but the clock is ticking, and tomorrow, it's going to continue. I imagine tomorrow morning this is continuing. So that would be, just do the numbers. Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So that'll be, and Wednesday, that'll be 6 days by tomorrow that this has been unchecked flowing into the Merrimack. 6 solid days of millions of gallons of wastewater flowing into the Merrimack versus going to the water treatment facility. And with temperatures getting this warm, the water doesn't warm up that fast, but certainly little tidal pools, areas where kids might be playing, if it gets to be 100 degrees, you worry about bacteria, someone getting sick or worse. So we're keeping an eye on this for you, and we'll get, as we get more information from the state, we'll let you know. All right, 10 o'clock hour coming up. We're going to get another great Independence Day historical fact from Sue Polidora, 10:20. Graham's coming up. And 11 o'clock, Rory O'Neill will give you the update on those Supreme Court decisions. I don't think it's going to go the White House, President Trump's way on the birthright citizenship question, especially if Justice Roberts is right in the case. Just saying. Just saying. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google, play the Pulse of an H. Jack Heath, the illustrious one. J-Dog on the boards. Our poll question up next. Do you think New Hampshire will close any beaches over the next few days because of this Haverhill mess? Yes or no? First hour when I'm in Concord, we're coming to you on YouTube, streaming at the Pulse of an H. Back in a moment.